Hi everyone! I am working on a few bigger projects at the moment and they really take up a lot of my time, a lot of my mental space, and I do a lot of thinking, and I want to stop the thinking and let the creativity flow. So this morning I woke up and I decided I was going to do a 3-hour challenge. What can I create in 3 hours? It is now around about 20 past 3 in the afternoon, so by 20 past 6 I will stop work and I will see what final product I have. My aim for this 3 hours is to ask ChatGPT to create an image, an inspiration piece. From there, I'm going to build it out of cardboard using all the spare cardboard. From there, create a stencil, and from there, make it into a beautiful, hopefully, gingerbread house. I'm going to start with ChatGPT and give it some prompts to get something cool to work with. Please create an image of a gingerbread house. I would like the house to be an old English cottage, whimsical, white, and one other color. That was a very simple prompt. Let's see what ChatGPT comes up with. Okay, here is an image of a gingerbread house designed to look like an old English cottage, whimsically decorated white and royal blue. Do you know what? I think it's really cute. Yeah, totally manageable within 3 hours. It might not look as good as this. I think I can make something close. Let's see. Okay, I better get cracking. As always, I'm going to design the house just to fit on my 30cm cake board. I figured that is a nice way to make it small so I can work with it, and also, you know, the pieces will fit in my oven. I'm just going to start with a rectangle. The main shape of this building is, so I'm just going to create myself a 3D rectangle and go from there. Creating a cardboard mock-up has turned out to be one of the most important parts of my design process. In this step, I can not only see if the house looks proportionate, but also get a first feeling for how the pieces will fit together, and ultimately I create my stencil from this mock-up. And of course, when I make mistakes, I can easily cut it out and build it back up again. Now I need to decide if I want the front to be the only side with these pitched roof details, or if I want the back to have it as well. Of course, it would just be easier if I made the back flat. Yeah, let's go with the easy option. Why not? Easy option, we're going with the easy option. Flat back. I've got to do the pictures of these roofs and then the extension at the front as well. Time check, 20 past 4. Okay, 2 hours to go. If this process has taught me anything, it's that my time management is awful, but that's all right. We're going to move on now that the construction is done to the stencil. Get in the kitchen and start baking. Casey from the future here. Yeah, oh man, I thought 3 hours was ample time. I was completely unaware of how much time actually passes when I'm in the flow and working on my houses. Now I was more aware of that, I was starting to rush through it as fast as I could while also maintaining my own standard of quality that I always aim for. This was not an easy balance, no. I will not lie, I am losing steam, but progress has been made, so we can't be too disappointed in ourselves. My cardboard structure has made its way into a full 3D thing, and my stencil is done. The oven is on, my gingerbread is thawed, and so I will start baking now. Time check. Yeah, it's 10 past 5, so it means, theoretically it means I have an hour and 10 minutes to bake, decorate, and assemble a gingerbread house. I'm gonna be honest with you, It's not gonna happen. You know what? I'm gonna spend the baking time deciding how much lenient I'm gonna be on my 3-hour time time thing. Let's see, but let's start baking at least. I have a small kitchen right off the side of my workspace. Even though it is small, I always clear my bench space as much as possible before baking. It's like part of my Zen baking routine. I then set up my utensils, flour, dough, baking tray, and everything that I need in their place and become a little worker bee, rolling out the dough, cutting the pieces to size, whack them in the oven, and start the process again. While one piece bakes, I get the next pieces ready for the oven. The baking time is about 9 to 10 minutes in the oven, so the turnover is quite quick. If you want to see the recipe I use, I've left a link to my website below where you can find it. Okay, my last pieces are in the oven. Time check. We are now at 5 to 6, which means I have 25 minutes left to decorate and build a gingerbread house. As I said, that's not going to happen. So I've had a think. I am going to give myself some leeway because this is my challenge and nobody's mandating anything about this. Tomorrow, I will give myself a 2-hour time block to decorate and build the gingerbread house, which means in total I've had 5 hours. Totally fine with me. I think this is a great way to get myself to make an outcome, which is ultimately what I want. I want to practice and I want to make gingerbread houses. So, right, my timer is about to go off. There it is. I will take my last pieces out of the oven, come back tomorrow and start the decoration process. I cleared my workspace and got ready for the next phase. So now I set myself up with everything I need to mix and bag my royal icing and laid out my silicone baking mat to have a clean surface to work from. I'm starting with the windows, so I mixed together some blue icing in a really thick consistency. Then I started to make a window template. I'd never tried stenciling with royal icing before, but I thought I'd give it a go and see how it worked, seeing as though I had not pre-cut my windows into the gingerbread before baking. I've seen this technique used and I was curious. I made the stencil with normal printing paper. It seemed a bit like a weird choice, but as I was under time pressure, I didn't put much thought into it and just thought, hey, I'll give it a try. So I swiped my thick blue icing over the top of the stencil. It was very satisfying and I have to say, it did the job. The edges are clearly a bit messy, but I can clean that up later. While I have this blue, I'm just going to use it also for the detail of the door. It's perfectly fine color and transfer a little door onto this front. I work with these small self-made piping bags and I find the easiest way to fill them is to put them in a cup and then just pour it in. I make little icing dots when I want to map out a shape on my cookie. That way I can get a feeling for the shapes and simply connect the dots when I'm happy. The rest of the decoration is simply white, which is nice and easy as I just have to add water to my thick icing glue and to loosen it up and fill my bag. Ensuring that any leftovers go right into my airtight container. So now I took the reference picture and started to add all the details to the walls of the house. Starting with the brickwork and then moving on to the plaster. Now I was able to line the windows and clean them up a bit, covering where the blue has spilled over. Most of the decoration to follow was a rinse and repeat of what had come before, so I was able to play a podcast and enjoy the process. Right now I'm listening to the Tony and Ryan podcast, in case you were curious. I highly recommend it. To round off the door, I used the wet on wet technique and layered some blue icing into my white flood icing. And this was all the decorating for the flat surfaces. Time check, it is 3 minutes to 5. I do not have a built gingerbread house. It's fine. I was ambitious. I honestly am so surprised at how much longer this takes me than I think it does. Can you build a gingerbread house in 3 hours? Yes, I believe you can. Can you design, create a template, and bake, decorate, and build a gingerbread house in 3 hours? Not in the way that I want to do it. But good to know. Can I do it in 5 hours? Once again, probably not in the way that I like to do it, with the amount of detail that I want to put into the designs, into the decoration. I think I'm going to stop the timer here. I'm going to finish this little bit of decoration I have left to do. Once it's dry, I'm then going to build it. I think that's the other point. You know, when I'm dealing with wet royal icing, I don't want to be fiddling with the pieces to get them to stand up right. So I'm just going to let all of the royal icing harden and then I will build it. However, I have definitely learned a lot in this process. It's really nice to just dig in and see what happens and create something quicker than I usually would, you know, just banging it together and hoping for the best. And I'm a firm believer that a gingerbread house is going to be magical no matter what it turns out to be, because it's a gingerbread house. It's a gingerbread house. Okay, well, I am going to finish this design, building it once it's all ready to be assembled, and then I'll show you the final product. Everything was dry a few hours later, so I could start assembling the house. I filled a piping bag with thick royal icing. This is what happens when I don't stand my bag in a cup. Honestly, I just make my own life harder sometimes. Nevertheless, I'm ready to go and start to build onto my cake board. Upon a dry fit, I was able to see that my sides were a bit wonky and were not going to sit flush, so I shaved the edges down with a grater to make them straight. The thick royal icing is so strong that the pieces are already able to stand on their own, which is very helpful. However, I usually place cups and bowls to act as kickstands, though, just so nothing falls and breaks. At this stage, I realized that the rectangular roof pieces were not going to sit flush, so I needed to improvise a bit. I used my stencil as a guide and cut some wedges out in order to get it to sit around the pointy details on the front wall. It was not perfect, but it did the job for now. The house assembly process is almost done already. I just need to add the front entrance and the sloped roof pieces on the pointy windows at the front. Then I was able to add the snowy details to make everything come together. A little celebratory jig and I am done. Here she is, the old English cottage, totaling approximately 5.5 hours of work time. And because it's me and I can't help myself, I decided I'd put in another 10 hours because I thought I can make this better. Time limits be damned, I want to make beautiful things no matter how long it takes me. So here is the next leveled up version of the cottage. hope you enjoyed this as much as I did, and maybe come back again sometime. Ciao for now.